Meanwhile, former President Trump taking the stage in Madison Square Garden just hours ago in front of thousands last night, where he slammed Vice President Harris and vowed to bring back the American dream.
Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've done a terrible job. We're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. We're bringing back the American dream, and we're going to bring it back at the highest level that you've ever seen. We're seeing historic levels of support among our black population, Hispanic population, and our Asian population. So Jews and Muslims and Catholics and evangelicals and Mormons, and they're all joining our cause in large numbers, larger than anyone has ever seen in this country before, larger than they've ever seen in any country. And the Republican Party has really become the party of inclusion.
Trump 2024 National Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt joins us now. Caroline, you were there last night. What was it like backstage? What was it, surrounded by 20,000 people almost as he took the stage? We're a week away.
It was amazing. The energy last night was palpable in the room. The spirit, it was happiness and joy. And it was such a diverse group of people in that stadium, packed to the house. There wasn't an empty seat. You had Black Americans, Latino Americans, Jewish Americans, men, women of all ages coming in support of President Trump, and unafraid to show it, by the way, even in the streets here of very liberal New York City, which I think there's a chance of getting very red after last night. President Trump's message was optimistic, and I loved what Mrs. Trump said. She said New York is a city of hope and dreams. You have people bustling from office to office to make a living, and those dreams are becoming unattainable because of Democrat policies, and I think President Trump offered a real message of hope to New Yorkers and all Americans, and what an epic way to kick off the last week of the campaign.
Epic. You know, the world's most famous venue. He always wanted to play it. It was essentially a 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe 12-hour event for a lot of people. But, you know, this morning, the mainstream media has picked up on the comics comments, which were offensive, have been denounced by the campaign and everybody else. What went on with that?
Look, it was a comedian who made a joke in poor taste. Obviously, that joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or our campaign. And I think it is sad that the media will pick up on one joke that was made by a comedian rather than the truths that were shared by the phenomenal list of speakers that we had. We had congressmen and women. We had Senator J.D. Vance. We had Dana White, friends of the president. Dan Scavino, my colleague and friend, who shared very intimate moments with President Trump when they were in the hospital in Butler, Pennsylvania, really showing the truth about President Trump and his heart of gold. And the crowd, they didn't mind, right? Again, it was a diverse group of people. The joke fell flat, but the crowd was there because they know who President Trump is, and they know he wants to be a president for all Americans.
So, Caroline, let's talk about the ground game, because when you look at the polling, when you see the Trump movement, it's clear that the momentum is on you guys' side right now. The question is, how do you get that momentum to the polls as well? So what are you guys doing differently this time that y'all did the last election?
Well, I may be biased, but I think Team Trump has the best ground game in the business right now. And our team has been out there on the ground focusing on registering voters and turning out voters for months, doing that hard work. And we're seeing it pay off in the early voting returns. Pennsylvania, there's been a 20-point swing from 2020 in early voting towards Republicans. North Carolina, Republicans are leading the early vote right now. Nevada, the first day of early voting in Clark County, Republicans led by 19 points. And so we are seeing Republicans and all Americans are taking President Trump seriously when he says get out and bank your vote early. So I'll use this opportunity to share that with the American people today. Please get out and vote early, and then you have the next week to bring all your friends and family with you to the polls. But the signs we're seeing in early voting coming in are very encouraging. We're not taking a single second for granted. President's going to Georgia today, and he'll be barnstorming the country every day for the next week.
Will he play Madden with Tim Walz at any point, like yesterday with AOC? You don't have to answer that. That was too controversial. All right. So yesterday, J.D. Vance does this thing where he sits in a chair and does does 3 Sunday shows. So right away, Jake Tapper thought, let's focus on General Kelly and what General Mattis said about the former president. Watch.
We've now spent 5 minutes talking about people in Donald Trump's staff
who think he's not fit for
who
office.
he fired.
Well,
Can we talk about how Americans can't afford groceries.
We're actually
Can we talk
talking
about the fact that Americans can't afford the cost of housing? Ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI.
So you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people.
Your thought about that exchange, which went on for about 25 minutes. I mean, almost.
It was brutal. I mean, it was another takedown by Senator Vance. He is the best surrogate we have on behalf of President Trump. He's so good. But you know why he's good? Because he speaks the truth. And it's easy to do that when you have truth on your side. And Jake Tapper and CNN pushed lies about President Trump. They have for the past nearly 10 years now. They were the lead propagandists of the Russia hoax, never walked that reporting back. There are still journalists out there who have Pulitzer Prizes for reporting on fake intel and fake stories about President Trump. And look, the American people are realizing you can't buy the lies of the mainstream media. That's why today in 2024, President Trump is more popular than he has ever been since 2016. They're not buying it.
Mick Mulvaney and Reince Priebus were also chief of staff. They know nothing about that. They want to interview and get some balance there. And it's pretty clear that as great a person as General Kelly is and what everything Mattis did for the country, they didn't get along with the president. And if you talk to H.R. McMaster, he writes in his book that they didn't like the president and they thought it was their job to rein him in. Why don't they think they should balance out that conversation?
Because it's The Atlantic and it's Jeffrey Goldberg and it's the same reporter who authored the Suckers and Losers hoax ahead of the 2020 election. He's not a journalist, he's an activist, and he acts on behalf of the Democrat Party and the left.
Well, Caroline, you were in the press shop as well.
That's right.
Back in the day.
Yes.
Do you remember hearing anything about this? Because, I mean, they were leaking like crazy. So this would have come out
That's
at
right.
that period of time.
Absolutely not. These are unequivocally false lies about President Trump, and there are multiple on-the-record sources who refuted this, some of them who don't even speak to President Trump anymore, but they came out to say this is false, and I feel an obligation to speak the truth. And again, the American people see that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We know you're busy.
Thank you.
I don't know how you do it. She had a baby 3 months ago.
She was back on the
She's
job.
back on the job
Within a week.
immediately.
Thank you.
God bless.
One more week.
Yep.
All right.
Mama's coming to help this week, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Well, bad news if you win, it's going to be a lot more than one more week.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.